Hello, welcome to studio. Today we are discussing the Austrian Grand Prix, and if you're new here, this is Rose Grandon. I am Lex. And yeah, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that share button if you please, and turn on all notifications so you know when I upload. The Silverstone or British Grand Prix is coming up next week, so make sure you subscribe and turn on all notifications so you don't miss that rundown. Okay, I love you all, and roll the intro. Let's open this Red Bull. Also, if we've gone over the ring saga, APM Monaco has finally fixed my ring. I've never been happier. She's good today. Technical difficulties, either way. Okay, let's talk track. This, like I said, we are at the Austrian Grand Prix, and this is also known as the Red Bull Ring. Obviously it is in Austria, where Red Bull is headed. And the circuit length is 4.318 kilometers long, 2.683 miles long. There are 71 laps in the Grand Prix, but this year there were 70. We'll talk about why later. The race record, the race length is held English. That's the language I speak. The race length is 306.452 kilometers long, 190.42 miles. The lap record is held by Carlos Sainz in 2020 with a 105.619. There are 3 DRS zones. There are 10 corners, 3 to the left, 7 to the right, and the first Grand Prix was held in 1970. And the 1987 Austrian Grand Prix was the last race held on the original, however you say this, circuit. Something just fell. Lovely. But it began with a collision between McLaren's Stefan Johansson and a deer. The deer died. Also, we'll circle around to more animal cruelty. And then the race itself just was even more mayhem. Firstly, Martin Brundle, who's an announcer nowadays. Martin Brundle torpedoed several other drivers, and on the undulated, oh, that's the name. I'm sorry. I was reading it and I was like, what does that say? On the start-finish straight. On the restart, Nigel Mansell and Gerhard Berger got away slowly, and the rest of the field crashed into the back of them, and more than 10 cars were damaged in the 2 collisions before the race was finally under the way. And in the end, Nigel Mansell won for Williams. There are a fair amount of Austrian F1 drivers, but the most notable is Niki Lauda, or the Rat. Niki Lauda and Joachim Rindt. That's French. Why am I adding a French accent to this? I'll put it on the screen. I'm not fully sure how to say his name. Either way, Niki Lauda, or the Rat, is a 3-time world champion and has 25 Grand Prix wins under his belt. He is arguably one of the most well-known F1 drivers in the 20th century. At the German Grand Prix in 1976, Lauda got into a very, very intense crash and was back 2 races later. But the importance of this is his entire, it was a very fiery crash, and his entire, face and body, he had, 3rd-degree burns, I believe. Very bad. What introduced a lot of new F1 fans in the latter half of the 2010s, late, whatever. In 2013, the movie Rush came out, which was about the 1976 season, which was about Lauda versus Hunt, James Hunt. Either way, Joachim Rindt was the first Austrian to race in F1. He raced from 1964 to 1970 and won the championship in 1970. In Monza in 1970, he got into a bad crash and he passed away. And as the season continued, he won from the grave, if that makes any sense. Monza was at the end of the season. and he was at the top. He was the top driver of the championship at the time, and Jackie Ickx got close to beating him, but he still won the 1970 World Championship from the grave, and that is insane when you think about it. In other F1 news, the Formula One movie came out. I can't say anything. I haven't seen it yet, but from what I hear, it's fine. What I don't like is that suddenly 500 beauty influencers are talking about F1. Great if you actually know what you're talking about. If you're going around and walking around the premiere and being like, I would drive this car because it's pink. To say that I hate you is an understatement. Either way, I get where she was coming from. The Alpine car is very pretty, but either way, yeah, I mean, the premiere happened. Charles looked like he was drowning in his suit. Lando looked impeccable. All of the wags looked beautiful. I mean, my favorite part was during, like, they were, like, taking a photo with all the F1 drivers, and you just hear Yuki go, when are we gonna watch this fucking movie? My icon. My short king. I love him. Either way. And then, like, there are, like, other drama with it. It's directed by the same guy who did Top Gun Maverick, so you can so tell that, like, Max could not give less of a fuck about being in this movie. Like, he, like, denied to do a scene with Brad Pitt and another driver in a club, and, like, someone was complaining about it. I don't even know why. Whatever. It's not important. In F1 news, that happened. In this year's Grand Prix, in Free Practice 1, Alex Dunn and Dino however the fuck you say his last name, were in for FP1 for Ferrari and McLaren. Chaos on the radio for Dunn. Max goes wide at where he and Lando crashed last year, and if you don't remember that, Mr. Max Verstappen and Lando Norris, Lando ended DNFing, Max ended P6, and he ultimately, they just drove into each other basically, and neither of them were seriously hurt, but then there were some snarky comments that it made me scared that I was gonna lose one of my favorite F1 friendships, but it all worked out. We're all fine now. This year, Max goes wide where he crashed last year, and then he starts waving to the crowd. And then Fernando spun. In Free Practice, I had no notes for Free Practice 2, and then in Free Practice 3, Leclerc goes into the runoff. At the end of Q3, Pierre spin. This is in quali. No notes for Q1, Q2. I mean, it was pretty standard for this kind of quali. I mean, there were like spins, but no serious damage. This is the third Grand Prix in a row that Carlos Sainz was out in Q3. So, do you hear my voice? Okay. But at the end of Q3, Pierre spins and is able to keep it in, but he ended P10. He, obviously, why did I note that? Overall, pretty standard quality, like I was saying, and the only shocker was Gabriel Bortoleto was in the top 10. He ended up scoring P8, and I believe that is his highest start in F1 thus far. In the Grand Prix. So, this Grand Prix was at 6, little backstory. Me and my best friend, Brooke, we're having a sleepover. Fun. Lovely. Okay? Grand Prix is at 6 a.m. I went to bed at 5 a.m. So I got a good 45 minutes of sleep. So if this is not my most superb rundown, sorry. I'm also going to I have my sister's like graduation party. Then I'm going to see my boyfriend, I think. So not together. Like after the party ends, then I'm gonna go see my. Moving on. In the Grand Prix, 6 a.m. Once again. The first 9 are on mediums. It seems like a 2-stop race. Formation lap starts. Carlos Sainz, stationary. Not moving. Stuck in first gear. Okay? And it turns into an aborted start, which means there's 10 minutes, and so the mechanics and all of them can go back out onto the track and they can double check everything. But this is why the race was only 70 laps, not 71 laps per usual. With the help of the stewards, Carlos is able to make it back to the pits. Great. It's a good thing. Then his car's on fire. His car's in fact on fire. Rear brakes, fire. They are like desperately trying to put this out, and it was scary, and I wanted Carlos to get out of the car, but he wouldn't because he needs to, I don't know, maybe like drive it. But either way, that was the end of Carlos Sainz's race. Okay, now we get to the Grand Prix actually starting. So I'll put the starting grid on the screen. Obviously Carlos Sainz is out, but we start off. Lando gets away well. He doesn't bottle the start. And then Charles is like able to keep up pace, but then Oscar being behind you is what I assume it was like to have Max behind you in 2023. Like, it probably is terrifying. Thus, Oscar gets into P2. He and Lando are fighting, but then you look 2 cars back. Kimi his rear locks, which means he's going straight, can't turn, they're in a turn. He rear ends Max Verstappen, spinning them both, ending both their races. Momentarily, we all thought it was George. I don't know if we all thought that. I thought it could have been George. I said, not again. Not again. No, Max will kill him. We've been over this game before. No. Either way, it wasn't. He was actually quite cordial to Kimi. I think he gave him a pat on the back, if I'm not mistaken, so good job, Max. I think after like Father's Day, it's like really kicking in. Either way, yellow flag due to that. Then there was a safety car. Max was waving to fans. And like I was saying, this is the Red Bull Ring, so he has a lot of fans. So there was a sea of orange and not the papaya orange. It was Max Verstappen orange. 4 cars off because of Emmy. English. 4 cars off because of Kimi. They were fine. I mean, some had slight damage, probably some flat spots on the tires. And flat spots on the tires are quite self-explanatory. It's a flat spot on your tire. And it's not good for your race. It means your car, when you're driving, your car is going to momentarily, not stall, but it's going to stop on those spots on your tires. And that's obviously not it. Not it, in fact. And then they were saying that Max's last 2, like, lap 1 retirements have been because of a Mercedes. The one before, I think we can guess who did it, George Russell. And then this time, Kimi. So this is ending Max's 31 race point streak. Moving on. Okay. Lots of people were going off the track because this is not a thin track, but it's just because the corners get so high speed that people can't keep it in. McLarens are fighting. They're told they're free to race. No papaya rules this time. Oscar gets in, but then Lando is able to get back through. And what I mean by that is they were going into turn 3, I believe. Oscar is able to nudge his way to the front. Lando says, hey, in fact, no, Queen. No, Queen. You're leading the championship right now. Let me have this. So they go back and forth for a little while. Lando is thankfully able to stay in front. But then, cut that part, editing Lexus. We're not there yet. Dirty racing for Gabriel and Pierre, meaning that they were just kind of bumping tires and fucking around and finding out, it felt like. Lando runs wide and touches the gravel, and then Alex Albon, the other Williams, is pulled into the pit, and he is retired because his car may have exploded. I don't know actually why. They haven't said why yet, but frankly, scary. Yuki and Lance were bumping wheels. George Russell was trying to undercut Lewis, meaning that he pits before Lewis, so then once Lewis has to pit, he's on fresher tires and is able to get in front of him. He was attempting to undercut Lewis. Okay. Then Mr. Oscar Piastri is attempting to overtake Lando into turn 4, I believe. And they're turning in. And Oscar's rear says, in fact, we're done here. Locks up. Almost fully goes into the rear of Lando. Could have easily been the end of the race for both of them. It wasn't. Thank God. Imagine how bad that would have been. That would have been like a Mercedes Barcelona 2016. It wouldn't have been that bad, but wouldn't have been great. So then Lando pits, goes on to hards. Not an amazing pit stop. Ended up being 3.1 seconds. Oscar has a flat spot in his tire because of him locking up. Yuki and Franco Colapinto have contact. Yuki bumped Franco, and then he spun on 4, and then there was gravel on the track, and then there's probably a 50 lap discrepancy between these two. But so Oscar Oscar was going around like the back runners, and I guess Franco Colapinto decided, hey Queen, no, let me nudge you into the grass. So that's in fact not allowed. That is called impeding. So 5-second penalty for freaking Colapinto, and I'm sure there's actually a lot of penalties I haven't seen yet because the FIA has to do their, what's the word? Delivering. Lando has slight front wing damage, and then Fernando Alonso and Gabriel Bortoleto were fighting to the line, and that is it. That is everything you need to know about the 2025 Austrian Grand Prix. I always forget how amazing this race is, and then it starts, and I'm on the edge of my seat the entire time. So I fear this race is underappreciated in my opinion. This race is... free practices are painfully boring. But the race is always chaos, and I kind of love that. I don't ever like races where people get hurt because I'm not crazy. But I do love a good chaotic race. I feel like those are always fun. Sue me. Either way, yeah, I mean, I don't really have anything else to talk about, but I feel like this is a really short video, so... comment down below your thoughts on the F1 movie and this race. I don't really know what else to say, so I'm just kind of stalling here. Okay. Either way, I love you all. Make good decisions and don't do bad things. And make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the share button if you please, and turn on all notifications so you never say upload. And like I said at the beginning of the video, Silverstone is next week, or the British Grand Prix is next week, and I would love to see you here because it is one of my favorite races of this season. Okay, I will talk to y'all next week. Roll the outro.